KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Real Men of Real Estate here on KCAA Radio. You can find us on your dial at 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, or right here at kcaaradio.com. Today I'm joined by Gabe Candia, who's going to be talking to us about 1031 exchanges and Delaware statutory trusts. So if you're not familiar, listen up. This is going to be the next hour of the best information you can get on the topic. So welcome, Gabe.
Welcome. Yeah, thanks a lot, Dan. I appreciate it. This is exciting.
You're welcome. Yeah, I really appreciate you being here. This is going to be tons of fun. So to get things kind of going, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, who are you? What do you do?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, my name is Gabe Candia. I'm here in San Diego. I'll take you way back before I was even born. My grandparents came to this country from communist Romania in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
And, they literally had their home taken away because you're not allowed to own private property. So when they came to this country, they really understood the power of that. And they went ahead and just passed the hat around and with friends and family and bought a mixed-use building in Chicago, Illinois. And I grew up in that building pretty much.
That's incredible. The real estate has really died in the
really
for
is.
You. Wow.
Yeah, it's dinner table talk and all that. It's in my blood. And so grew up in that business. Everything from my dad was an electrical contractor. My uncle was in management. My cousins are in development. So the whole thing was just, purebred real estate guy.
Wow.
Fast forward, in 2010, I moved to San Diego and get into property management out here, and really learned to lay the land, how to manage rental properties and run the whole show in terms of leasing, management, orchestration of maintenance, accounting, etc. Quickly moved on from
Was that your own portfolio that you were managing?
No. I worked for a countywide property management company. We had about 2,000 units all over the country, or all over the county, and we had basically I was doing business development for them, and I managed about 100 units myself. So
got it.
Great experience for learning how to run a rental property, which was
absolutely
very cool. So that kind of fundamental education really helped me out with my next phase of my career, which was multifamily sales. And so I did that for about 10 years, and I chose a neighborhood. We call it a farm, right? The neighborhood you want to work in. And it was probably the worst neighborhood you want to be in if you're going to be a new guy on the road to this show.
Where was it, if you don't mind my asking?
It was multifamily real estate in the coastal neighborhoods of San Diego. We're talking about La Jolla, Pacific Beach, Ocean Beach, Point Loma.
That has got to be a vicious market.
It was tough because, most people don't want to sell. And so I had to figure that out the hard way and beat my head against the wall a bunch of times. And what I came to realize, and this is really what kind of led me what I'm doing now, most of my clients, price was not a primary interest of theirs. Really, tax mitigation was one of the biggest questions they would have. They'd say, Gabe, listen, I get it. You're telling me my property's worth more than it was before. That's great. I'd love to sell it, but I got two problems. One, if I sold it, I don't want to pay the taxes. Two, what would I reinvest my money into? Here I am. I've got a great asset, and I'm going to need something better if you're going to get me to sell it. So I did everything under the sun that you could think of creatively. I did installment sales. I did master leases, seller carrybacks, and of course, local 1031 exchanges. And so I really understood that part of tax mitigation for the client and how to basically put a deal together and structure it the way that they would be interested in moving forward.
Got it. That sounds exceptionally creative. You pulled all the strings.
Yeah, we did, and we had a lot of just the knowledge of trying to figure out how to do that. I'm just a knowledge junkie. I just love to learn, and every time I find out somebody did something more creative than me, I want to learn how they did it and kind of keep going forward with that. So that led me what I'm doing now. Basically, about 4 or 5 years ago, I started hearing about DSTs, and
What is a DST?
Delaware Statutory Trust.
Okay.
And I'll get into that in a second. It's a terrible name, but it's a great solution. But to wrap up my background, basically, I hooked up with a good friend of mine who became the founder of a company that I work for now, and they are a broker of DSTs, which is a novel role that I had to this day. I don't see it very often. So to step back a little bit, what is a 1031 exchange? I'm sure a lot of the listeners, have some understanding of what a 1031 exchange is, some more than others. The DST is a further niche of that. But to go back a little bit to 1031s again, it allows you, it's IRS Section 1031, Internal Revenue Code. Everyone loves the Internal Revenue Code. It allows for people to trade investment properties without having to pay the taxes. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have to pay them at all. They get deferred into the next property, but allows you to sell an investment property and buy another investment property without having to pay the taxes at that time. Now, what kind of taxes are we talking about? We're talking about, obviously, federal capital gains, 20%. State taxes, depending on what state you're in, that's 0 to 13.8%. Of course, we're lucky to have the 13.8% here in California.
Don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah, of
full
course.
California experience.
Good old California. There's a newer one in the last 10 years. It's called the Medicaid tax, and that one is a 3.8% tax. And then the one that people really forget about is depreciation recapture tax.
Oh, everybody forgets about that. Yep.
Everyone forgets about it.
It's brutal.
25% of what you depreciated. And if you have a good accountant and you have an investment property, you're probably depreciating it every single year.
Definitely.
You are 25% of what you depreciate, you'll owe back if you don't do a 1031. So that stuff really starts to add up, and you start talking about numbers of 30 to 40% of your sale proceeds going to the government. Let's just put that into a number real quick. If you have $1 million proceeds out of a sale, and you have to give away about $400,000 to the government, now you have $600,000. That's something
right.
You're not going to feel like that millionaire anymore, and it's going to be a big hit for sure. So what a lot of people do is they do the old do nothing, say, well, I might as well just keep what I have, even though I'm kind of sick of managing the property, or I'm having issues, or I just kind of want to go into passive investing. So obviously the biggest advantage to a 1031 is tax deferral, along with some others, but that's the major one. So the important thing to know is that 1031s are just the equation. It's just the equation of how to do that structure. The reality is it doesn't finish or fit. What you have to do in that scenario is you have to have a replacement property. You have the property you can sell. You can do a 1031 to actually mitigate those taxes, but you still have to buy that next property. And you need someone to facilitate it as well. You do need an exchange combinator. They're like an escrow. They hold on to that money while you're in your 1031, and so they hold on to that in trust. But you still have to find that next investment property. And where most people who are familiar with 1031s, they believe they have to buy another piece of real estate direct. So if you sold an apartment building, you probably have to go out and find another apartment building, or an industrial property, or a triple net property.
So it sounds like you can do some horse trading here.
Well, a lot of it's horse trading for sure. That's how it used to be in the old days before they did deferred exchanges, was just one for one. But what people don't know is that they can actually invest in a structure called a DST, Delaware Statutory Trust. And that is a fantastic structure. It is allowed by the IRS. It was allowed in the IRS in 2004. And
it's pretty new then, really.
It's very new. It's very new. It's been really ramping up in the last 5 to 7 years. It's a market that's been pretty much doubling since then. And so it grows, and for good reason. It's basically, for a lot of my clients, demographically, they want to go from active to passive management. They want to go from, depending on what age they are, they're just looking for something that's going to be a little easier for them. They're kind of over the management, the 3 T's, tenants, toilets, and trash.
Right.
And there's a number of obviously other asset classes where they want to trade into it, but those are the main ones where they want to say, you know what, there's got to be a better way, and I don't want to be consistently thinking about my real estate. And so this is a great option where they can get into institutional quality real estate all over the country with professional sponsors. These are real estate companies that have been around for decades, and they're typically worth billions of dollars. So they know what they're doing when it comes to real estate.
Okay, this is the big time.
Very big time.
All right.
And you're at a level that's much better in terms of, what kind of real estate are we talking about? If you have $1 million to go out there and buy real estate, it's surprisingly, it's not a lot in terms
it's very small.
It's very small to go out and find another piece of real estate and have to try to, build some value on it. Whereas some of the deals that we have on the DST side are going to be, let's say a 2020 built 400 unit property in Austin, Texas, multifamily. There could be Class A plus Class B. There could be senior living facility in Delray Beach, Florida. It could be a portfolio of self-storage facilities. It could be an industrial property with Amazon as one of its tenants. Could be a basket of triple net properties all over the country. And we're talking about big ones: CVS, Walgreens, Walmart.
Okay, I see.
Those deals are $20 million deals minimum. So even at $1 million, you try and go out there and find a triple net, you're not buying a CVS. So
you
get quality stuff out there, and you get it in a fractional percentage. So what's great about that is it allows you to put as little or as much as you want to in the deal. And so what happens is, that client comes to me with $1 million exchange. I'm going to help them put a fraction of that into each deal. So maybe 200 into the industrial deal.
So they're going to spread out their risk.
Totally. You mitigate a lot of risk in different locations and all that. And you get to go ahead and put, a little bit into each deal, and you kind of create a nice little custom portfolio. And what's great about that is that obviously you fill your equity percentage, but you can also fill out your debt percentage. So you actually have to replace that debt too. That one people forget to do. So putting that whole package together is something that's really what I pride myself in, and doing that for each client, and something that I really enjoy. And that's what I do for my service.
That's absolutely fascinating. I didn't realize quite how much went into the DST side of it, especially the debt capture component. So that's fascinating. Right on.
Yeah, there's a lot of ins and outs, and so we're happy to help.
Okay, very cool. Well, it's just about time for us to take a commercial break. So thanks for getting us started. That was fascinating. And folks listening out there, we'll be back here in about 2 minutes after these messages. Thanks for listening to The Real Men of Real Estate right here on KCAA Radio.
Hello, welcome to Fire Up Connect. Are you a small business owner? Do you lack the resources to manage your business? Is visibility and brand awareness a top priority for you? Fire Up Connect is a community of small business owners. We help our members find the right connections and the right resources to help them be successful. This isn't your typical business networking group. Members of Fire Up Connect are innovative, driven, and all about building long-lasting relationships. We work to identify your goals and understand what it is you do and how we can help you brand yourself and your business. Fire Up Connect is about creating business opportunities, community projects, educational sessions, and live seminars to help implement effective marketing programs for our members. Fire Up Connect helps members gain validation in their businesses, learn what challenges similar business leaders are facing, and access to subject matter experts on how to overcome these challenges. Fire Up Connect offers opportunities for organic exposure through our many marketing events, programs, and projects. There are 4 colors that make up Fire Up Connect. Yellow represents the back office and services available to Fire Up Connect members. Red represents Fire Up Connect's marketing and advertising resources, such as TV shows, radio, magazine book publication, and movie projects. Green represents Fire Up Connect's referral system, tracking incentives. And blue represents Fire Up Connect's donation, fundraising, and scholarship programs. Fire Up Connect members have access to monthly business sessions, price discounts on affiliated companies, and all Fire Up Connect programs, book publications, published articles for your business, access to Fire Up Connect scheduled webinar events, a photo shoot session, and a video production. Join us for our annual Fire Up Live seminars and gain valuable connections in the Fire Up community and boost your business. We believe in your business. We believe in what you do. At Fire Up Connect, we believe in you. Join us for our annual Fire Up Live seminars to gain, discover, and get fired up.
Real Men of Real Estate.
Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA.
Most mortgages can be purchased.
All of us want to live in thriving communities.
Basically, go to the radio station, KCAAradio.com.
You can find us on your dial at 102.3 FM, 1050 AM, as well as 106.5 FM. Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate here on KCAA Radio. My name's Dan Regg, host for this Sunday afternoon, and I've been speaking with Gabe Candia about 1031 exchanges and Delaware statutory trusts, DSTs. Admittedly, I didn't know a lot about DSTs going into this conversation, so that was truly fascinating. Thanks, Gabe.
You're not the only one, Dan. Trust me.
Well, I didn't realize they'd only been around since 2004. I kind of thought I just missed the boat.
And they kind of had a light intro. Obviously not too far from there was the Great Recession, so it kind of sputtered into reality, and then it wasn't until kind of the mid teens that it started to really turn on and get more acceptance in the investment world.
Was there something that kind of kicked that, or was it just everybody getting comfortable?
It has to grow. It's kind of a chicken and the egg problem. The sponsors have to create these DSTs, and then there has to be demand, obviously, to fill that DST. And so as we see more and more demand, we see more and more sponsors come to the market. We have to take that with a grain of salt with the ones who've been around for a while and treat their investors well versus the ones who are newer. Doesn't mean they're bad, but we just want to keep an eye on those ones and see if they structure their deals, basically.
Maybe smaller allocations to them and take some time to...
Yeah, exactly. So we just there's not a lot of track record there for some of them, but if they have a good deal, at the end of the day, this is real estate. So I've been analyzing deals my whole career. So if they have, either good debt or no debt, and they have a good business plan, good market, et cetera, all that can really add to the value of a project.
Okay. So there's just a lot going on, and it sounds like the market's really in a major growth phase still.
Oh yeah, no, it is. We're seeing new sponsors come out with more deals because it's still, like I said, demographically, it's a lot of people are moving in this direction.
Okay. How, in terms of just value, how big does a sponsor need to be before it makes sense for them to issue a DST opportunity?
There's a wide range of sponsors. At the top end, there's billion-dollar companies, and they raise billions of dollars. I'm sure you've heard of a lot of different companies out there.
I'm thinking like Westfield.
Yeah, Westfield or like a BlackRock or a Blackstone. All those those aren't actually DST sponsors, but those are the types of companies that put these together. And so a lot of them will have, they're not just doing DSTs. They have their own REITs. Some of them have $6 or $5 billion REITs. A lot of them will do their own funds and limited partnerships. They'll do different development deals, and they put together DSTs in a way that just helps that 1031 community, because you're not allowed to actually do a 1031 into a REIT or a limited partnership. If you and I, Dan, went out and bought a piece of real estate and said, hey, we're going to go find some investors, none of those investors can be 1031 exchange investors.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
so is that the biggest difference between the DSTs and the REITs?
One of them. So here's another example. The REITs are going to have a portfolio of properties, and what ends up happening is that they're buying and selling within that portfolio. Maybe they're going to add value to those properties and then unload them, kind of maxed out their capital on that one, and go out and find some more value add properties. The difference with the DST is that you're talking about a very specific property. So think about 123 Main Street. You know exactly what you're investing in. You know exactly what the rent roll of that property is. You know all the expenses, et cetera. All of that is all up front. And that property, if it's sold, you're now back in the same position you were before.
You get your money back, and you're doing another exchange.
You can do another exchange. You can cash out. You can exchange into a direct piece of real estate if you want to do that again. Exchange into another DST. The options are yours. But if that property sells, you're selling with it.
How often does that happen? Or are they trying to kind of keep these going? I'm assuming they want to buy and hold these most of the time. And
most of the DSTs are held for about 5 to 7 years. That's kind of the average hold time. And once again, that's kind of following a business, or that's kind of following that business cycle of about 5 to 7 years. So once again, you're kind of buying into these assets. They appreciate over time, and then you go ahead and sell them and move on to the next.
Got it. All right. Well, that sounds like a pretty regular thing. All right. How long does it take to do one of these exchanges? Like, I'm going to work into this. I'm getting ready to think about trying to buy.
Sure.
I've got I've got a small condo complex here in San Diego. I need to move on, or not condo, but an apartment complex. And what do I need to do to kind of get ready for this?
Regardless of whether you're going to work with me or another DST, et cetera, you're going to want to at least do your research and find out how you're going to finish that equation that I talked about earlier, that 1031. You need to find that replacement property. And so a lot of clients that I had in multifamily brokerage, they would say, Gabe, go out and find me a deal first before I sell. I'd say, well, it's a lot harder to put that together, because what kind of seller is going to say, okay, I'll accept your offer. Just go ahead and take 6 months to go sell your property. No, they're going to say, come on back when you've sold your property, you have the money, right? So it's easier said than done to go out and find that next property. This way, you can at least go forward knowing you're going to have either a primary target or a backup target. I always tell my clients, listen, if you want to go out and buy direct real estate, you've got an idea of what you want to purchase, go for it. But just know that it's a very short timeline. The actual timeline is 45 days from the closing date of your down leg property or relinquished property to actually identify your next properties. And so that's not a lot of time to get through.
No, 45 days is quick for physical real estate. Holy smokes.
It's very quick.
Wow.
I mean, once again, the reality is the sellers are not going to take you seriously unless you have some real money in the game. And so not until you sell, where you actually have that cash available and it's been taken out of that property, do you have to go and actually look for a property. It means putting offers on properties, getting offers accepted.
Right.
Just those two things alone could take 1 or 2 weeks.
Easily.
Yeah. I'm imagining like a scenario where everything goes perfectly, right?
Yeah,
so
for
1 or 2 weeks of getting the offer accepted, another couple of weeks of due diligence, just getting people, over there, the physical inspector, the termite inspector, all those guys.
Yeah.
Always a week.
And then what happens if you find something? You get
right.
If you do find a problem, now
you got to get a contractor over there to figure out how to fix it, how much it's going to cost, and everything else. And then of course finish it off with financing. If you have to do financing, that's commercial properties, 45 days minimum, most likely 60. So there goes, you're past that point. So I always ask the question is, what is your level of confidence at day 45? And if the seller hasn't signed the grant deed and put it in escrow, I would say the confidence level should still be fairly low, because there's a lot that can happen. And I've heard horror stories, but like the seller not signing the grant deed, that kind of
stuff. Well, maybe we can get into that later.
Right. And so, these days you're lucky if you find one property to purchase, and that's a direct piece of real estate. So what happens is that the IRS allows you to have a number of ways to identify in your 1031. So one of the ways is with they call it the 3-property rule. So you can identify any 3 properties you want. One could be the Empire State Building if you want it to be. So you can identify any 3 properties. So if you only found one, you better fill those next 2 slots, and rather than putting your neighbor's house on the list, why don't you go ahead and put 2 DSTs, as a backup.
Right. Real simple insurance.
Real simple insurance.
Yeah. Okay.
The other way you can identify is with the 200% rule. You can identify as many properties as you want, more than 3, as long as you don't identify more than 200% of what you sold. So if you sold $1 million property, you can't identify more than $2 million worth of property.
Okay.
So that's a pretty good kind of do and don't of what you should do on that. And so, yeah, it's a stressful process. And so knowing that you have backups, knowing that you have an option even for boot, I'll mention boot real quick.
So what is that?
So it's a terminology for a 1031 exchange. It's basically leftover money in an exchange. So let's say you're in a $2 million exchange and you found the perfect property that you're going to purchase. The only problem is that it costs 1.5 million. So you have 500,000 left in your exchange.
Sounds like a problem.
It's a problem. What are you going to do with it? If you bought an investment property, 500,000, you might be lucky to find a condo or maybe a small house for that amount. That's not necessarily the best investment in most cases. So at least for cash flow. So why not put that amount into a DST? It's a real easy button solution.
That makes really good sense, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I always tell people, think about DSTs as a primary target, as a backup solution, or for boot.
Okay. And besides the obviousness of flexibility, what are the other general benefits of going with the DST option?
Well, one is turnkey. It's a turnkey option. Like we mentioned, it's something that you don't have to worry about when it comes to, managing the property, orchestrating construction, doing the accounting. None of that all of that's taken care of by a professional institution, and you're getting mailbox money just like a lot of other investments that, a lot of my clients have, whether it's going to be stocks, bonds, et cetera. It's similar setup to where that's all taken care of pretty nicely. Once again, institutional quality real estate is another big, benefit to this. Passive management, passive income, low minimum investment. That's another one that's important too. A lot of our offerings, the minimum investment is about $100,000. So,
Okay. That's relatively
$1 million
accessible,
exchange.
actually.
Oh yeah. If you have $1 million exchange, you can do 10 DSTs. Not that I recommend that. Probably
sounds complicated.
Probably end up in the 4 to 6 range, but you can do it. So that's what's important about it. Diversification. You can do, like I said, self-storage in one location. You can do triple net in another location. And then obviously diversifying by sponsor too. So, we talked about that before. Sponsors, different sponsors adds a little more diversification. So that's even nice. The debt part is also very important. A lot of those 1031s, you have to replace the debt. And so you can do that pretty easily with a leveraged DST. The IRS does allow you to take your portion of the debt on that DST. So it's if it's 50% levered, you can check off that box that you have 50% leverage, which is
wow. All right, that is really, really handy.
Wow. Yeah. And the last one is estate planning. When you go through a scenario for a lot of these clients, the big push for a 1031 is to hold on that equity in their estate and give it to their heirs. And so they can give it to their heirs with a stepped up basis. And that's usually the biggest benefit for all 1031s and holding on to real estate at a low cost basis. So
it works its way into pretty much every facet of investing. I mean, anybody can do this at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, especially with 100,000 buy-in, if you've been investing for a while, that'll work.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. That's a pretty fantastic option.
It is.
Well, with that, we're going to have to take another break for some commercials here, folks. So thanks for listening here. Gabe, that's fantastic information. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to hearing some more. We'll get into maybe some case studies and a little bit about how to actually chase through one of these things next. So come back after these messages here on KCAA Radio. Talk to you guys all soon.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations radio talk show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental properties, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about, so join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Real Men of Real Estate.
Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA.
Boats, mortgages can be purchased.
All of us want to live in thriving communities.
Basically, go to the radio station KCAAradio.com.
You can find us on your dial at 102.3 FM, 1050 AM, as well as 106.5 FM.
Welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate here on KCAA Radio. You can find us at 1050 AM or 106.5 FM on your dial. I've got the pleasure of speaking with Gabe here about Delaware Statutory Trust, kind of an extension of the 1031 exchange process. So we've gotten through a lot of the nitty gritty about how to do this. I sure hope folks can see exactly how this would benefit them and what they can get out of it. So thank you very much, Gabe.
My pleasure.
And so can you run us through some examples, maybe kind of a start to finish, how this looks like when somebody actually goes through it?
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
So I've got a great example. I'm working with a client right now who is, just sold a property that's been in their family for decades, actually.
Okay. What sort of property is it?
It was an industrial property.
Okay.
Probably wasn't performing all that great, but the value was fantastic because it was in a great location. So typical scenario for me where I do these ROE calculations with people, return on equity. And people will tell me, they'll say, oh, my return, it's been fantastic. I've doubled, tripled, made 10 times on my money, and I'm getting 20% on what I invested, everything. I stop them there. I say, listen, that's great, but let's talk about return on equity. Well, what do you mean by that? Let's talk about what you're getting on a net basis in terms of net income from the property. That's the number at the end of the year after all expenses, taxes, insurance, maintenance. What is that number at the end of the year, the one you put on your taxes, and divide that by the value of the real estate. Okay. So talk to your real estate broker or whoever, people are calling you probably all the time and saying, hey, I'll pay you X amount. Whatever that value is, you divide the net income divided by the value. That's your return on equity. And most often, at least in my part of the country, those return on equity numbers are between 1% and 3%.
Oh.
And so,
oh wow.
If I can get, let's say, 4 to 6% with a batch of DSTs, I just
double or triple their return.
I just doubled or tripled their cash flow.
Wow,
and the cash flow is typically the most important part for these clients. So that's the part where I'll first start the conversation, obviously. Hey, what are you guys doing? What are we trying to accomplish here? So that client was very determined to find his own piece of real estate. He wanted to kick the dirt. I totally get it. A lot of my clients are that way. He's going out to Arizona. He found a property. His exchange, by the way, he sold a property for $3.6 million. Okay,
so this is a big one.
That's in California. That's a decent sized one.
Fair enough.
So in terms of investment real estate, we're talking about industrial and multifamily. That's a typical number, I would say. And so 3.6 million, he's got about $500,000 in debt on the property. Okay. So most of it's equity, and he would get hammered by taxes if he sold. So he went out and found a property in Arizona. The property was worth 1.8 million. He's in escrow right now. And he's going to be, looking to figure out what to do with the rest of that equity. He's got another 1.8 in equity. And we're getting close to the end of the timeline here. So he needs to find replacement property for the rest.
So he's on that 45-day clock.
So he's on that 45-day clock.
Okay.
Exactly. So just today I put together a batch of about 2 scenarios. One was a scenario that, hey, let's just fill up the rest of the equity with DSTs. I think I did about 4 or 6 different DSTs for that. I did a second scenario using the 200% rule, where I fill up the entire amount in case something goes wrong with this property in Arizona. If all of a sudden, if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, he's going to have a backup for the entire amount, and that's going to be really important. And by the way, he's buying the property in Arizona all cash, so he needs to replace that $500,000. He doesn't want to go to a bank right now and try to replace that $500,000. That's 6 or 7% investment rates right now. We already have leveraged DSTs. So we have leveraged DSTs that are going to be able to pick up that $500,000 in debt pretty easily.
Got it.
So that's a fun one that I'm working on right now, and it gets even more deep into it. He says, "Well, Gabe, I'm looking for some liquidity. I want to have some options where I might get some money here in the next few years to, redo my house or be able to, work on some stuff." I said, well, hey, let's check out this 721 UPREIT. Okay, there's all these different terminologies in this business. Okay. Basically what it is I was talking about all these sponsors that have REITs and they have different DSTs. Well, some of these options, they made an arrangement where the REIT is going to buy the DST in the next 2 to 3 years. And so what happens in that scenario is that your interest in the DST gets converted into shares of the REIT. And what's important to know about that is that now you have liquidity, and so you can peel off as much as you or as more as you want. So he can sell $50,000 if he wants. He can sell $500,000 if he wants. So that kind of is another element of
That's pretty neat,
which kind of gets
actually.
really fun in that whole aspect.
Holy cow. So for this particular guy, what comes next then?
Oh, so we're in the process of identifying all of them. So I need to go to all the sponsors and get the correct allocations for debt and equity. And then we put together a whole addendum for his identification that gets submitted to the QI. It's qualified intermediary. They're the ones that hold that money during the exchange.
Okay.
And they validate with the IRS of getting all of the identifications in by 45 days. And so we're a part of that process where we help prepare that documentation.
All right. How much time does that intermediary need to do their work? Like, you're pushing these 45 days, but something tells me there's a few other things that are process oriented you got to get done.
For them, not much. They just need what I need. They need what I give them by midnight on the 45th day. So it's an email.
Oh, okay.
Documentation that we prepared with the client, and then as long as that was submitted by the 45th day, then that's everything. Their job is done. The next portion is to actually fund and execute on these DSTs. That whole process takes about 3 to 4 days. It's a very simple process.
Okay, so it goes pretty fast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a matter of filling out some documentation, setting up wiring instructions, and then a closing.
Okay. And there's usually those don't fill up. I'm assuming like you buy, once you tell them you're going to buy something, you kind of have a place held for you, or is there a little bit of horse trading sort of thing that can happen there at the last second?
That's actually a very good question. So no, they do fill up, and some fill up faster than others. In fact, if someone is telling me, well, let's see if I'm going to wait a month for this other deal to go through before I do a DST, I'll say, well, we have to choose the right one, because there's some that are going to be closed up here pretty soon, and I'd hate for you to have an option that you identified that's not there anymore. So the good news is that we have a great relationship with a lot of these sponsors, and we get two things. One, we get equity blocks right off the bat. They'll give Perch Wealth a number of equity blocks in terms of these offerings. Secondarily, I'll go ahead and make an equity reservation for my client specifically. So I'll call the sponsor and I'll say, you know what, let's block off 500,000 in this DST for this client, and they can typically hold on to that reservation. It's non-binding, and they can hold on to it for about 1 to 2 weeks.
How often, or excuse me, how long are these offerings open typically? It sounds like some of them are going to move in a week or two.
Yeah, some of them in a few days, actually.
Oh man! Wow.
And we're talking about lots of money. We're talking about 20 or 30 million gone within a week. So that can be that can happen, of course, but it depends on a lot of factors. Some of them is just the size of the offering. Some of the size of the offerings are in the hundreds of millions, and so that's going to take a while to fill up. And the other ones is just how the strength of the offering. If the strength of the offering is great, then they're going to go quickly.
Okay. Wow. All right. And do you have a sense of the speed? I mean, generally going in, like, or sometimes you're
so with the first question I'll ask,
you don't know.
Yeah, first question I'll ask the sponsors how much equity is left. So if it's a $30 million offering and they tell me 15 million's left, I'll say, okay, then we're probably good for a few weeks.
I got you.
If they say it's a few million left, that can be gone within a couple of days. Easily.
Wow. Okay. So just basically you only need 1 or 2 folks doing an exchange like you would have to fill it up.
If it's less than $1 million, I say it can be gone by the end of the day.
Oh man.
Certainly.
Literally.
Yeah.
That seems kind of amazing to move that quickly on something. I mean, in real estate, you're very accustomed to we'll start the paperwork, I'll call you next week.
Sure.
Right. And
it's a
we'll
different
go to
process.
the next step. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
The good news is though there's usually another one around the corner. So it's not like we're missing out on too much unless you identify and then it's gone. So that's the part where I strategize with the client on making sure that doesn't happen. Got it.
What can the client do then at that point to just make sure that they're prepared? I mean, it sounds like you're taking care of everything for them at this point, and they don't have a lot to do. So are there roadblocks, or excuse me, not roadblocks, but speed bumps at that point they need to do something about?
No, the client most importantly has to review the information. Of course, I'm discussing that with them. We're working on that together. But they do need to review the information, and by information, what's nice about DSTs is that yes, you can move quickly on them. And the reason you can is because all the work has been done. The property's already been purchased. There's already an appraisal on the property. There's all the pro forma on the rent roll, et cetera. All that information is in what's called a PPM, private placement memorandum. And some of them could be in the hundreds of pages. And so it's important to review that information and then obviously make a decision on whether you want to move forward or not. So that's the client has to be doing all of that as well. And so other than that, we do try to pick up most of the slack. It's a very stressful process for most of my clients. So I try to pick up as much as I can.
Right. Make sure it gets done for them on time. Yeah.
Right.
Right. And so if, let's just say, going for 3 different DSTs, they fill up and you've already identified them. So you're allowed to substitute at that point. Is that?
No.
No. Okay. So that's the end of the road.
Once you identify, you identify. Now, the reality of what you just said is probably very low, because if you're working with me, I'd probably make sure that doesn't happen.
Got it. Okay. Well, that sounds pretty critical. All right. I appreciate the 200% rule quite a bit more now.
Yeah. No, it does help to have more options.
Mm-hmm.
Because the 200% rule will allow you to do quite a few backups.
All right. Wow. That's pretty fascinating. Well, we're going to have to take another commercial break here. That went fast. That did not seem like
it sure did
an entire segment, but absolutely fascinating how these things get structured and how they go. I hope this current one finishes up smooth for you.
Thank you. I think you will.
All right. So thanks for listening here, folks, at KCAA Radio. This is the Real Men of Real Estate. Every third Sunday, 1 p.m. I'm your host, Dan Reddick here. So thanks for listening, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Hello, welcome to Fire Up Connect. Are you a small business owner? Do you lack the resources to manage your business? Is visibility and brand awareness a top priority for you? Fire Up Connect is a community of small business owners. We help our members find the right connections and the right resources to help them be successful. This isn't your typical business networking group. Members of Fire Up Connect are innovative, driven, and all about building long-lasting relationships. We work to identify your goals and understand what it is you do and how we can help you brand yourself and your business. Fire Up Connect is about creating business opportunities, community projects, educational sessions, and live seminars to help implement effective marketing programs for our members. Fire Up Connect helps members gain validation in their businesses, learn what challenges similar business leaders are facing, and access to subject matter experts on how to overcome these challenges. Fire Up Connect offers opportunities for organic exposure through our many marketing events, programs, and projects. There are 4 colors that make up Fire Up Connect. Yellow represents the back office and services available to Fire Up Connect members. Red represents Fire Up Connect's marketing and advertising resources, such as TV shows, radio, magazine book publication, and movie projects. Green represents Fire Up Connect's referral system, tracking incentives. And blue represents Fire Up Connect's donation, fundraising, and scholarship programs. Fire Up Connect members have access to monthly business sessions, price discounts on affiliated companies, and all Fire Up Connect programs, book publications, published articles for your business, access to Fire Up Connect scheduled webinar events, a photo shoot session, and a video production. Join us for our annual Fire Up Live seminars and gain valuable connections in the Fire Up community and boost your business. We believe in your business. We believe in what you do. At Fire Up Connect, we believe in you. Join us for our annual Fire Up Live seminars to gain, discover, and get fired up.
Real Men of Real Estate.
Men of Real Estate Radio show here on KCAA.
Boats, mortgages can be purchased.
All of us want to live in thriving communities.
Basically, go to the radio station KCAA radio.com.
You can find us on your dial at 102.3 FM, 1050 AM, as well as 106.5 FM.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate here on KCAA Radio. You can find it on the dial at 106.5 FM or 1050 AM. I'm your host, Dan Reddick, here with Gabe Candia, talking about 1031 exchanges and ultimately Delaware Statutory Trusts, DSTs. It's a heck of a process, I got to say, so things have got to go wrong every once in a while. Do you have any stories to share?
Yes, it is it's a process that does have a lot of do's and don'ts. And so I always tell people, regardless of what direction you go, don't be afraid to call me. I mean, I'm happy to make sure. My number one goal is for people to have a successful exchange, whether that's with me or not. Really, I mean, I just want to make sure that people don't, when I hear these horror stories about people blowing their exchange when they really had the intention to do it, it really breaks my heart.
Oh man.
Basically, one of the main important things to do is before you close on your down leg, your relinquished property, make sure you have the QI set up. That stands for Qualified Intermediary, or also known as Exchange Accommodator. I don't do that service. I'm happy to recommend quite a few, but that process needs to be set up with your escrow before you close. Otherwise, you cannot do a 1031 exchange. If you take constructive use of that money, if it goes into your bank account after you sell, you no longer can do a 1031. So that's number one.
Okay. But if you got escrow opened, you're okay.
If you're an escrow, you're fine. But you have to, if that money leaves escrow's account and goes into your account or your attorney's account or whoever, you're no longer in it.
Then it's game over.
That's
right.
Okay. That's right. So it's very important that I've heard too many horror stories with people who I talked to a week after their sale and they say, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. And I said, well, now you can't.
That's expensive. Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So is that's kind of the big one, right?
That's the big one. And then just following timelines is very important. The other one too is the structure of the down. So the structure of the ownership of the down leg. What I mean by that is that people own properties in their name. It could be Gabe Candia owns the property. It could be Gabe Candia's trust that owns the property. It could be Gabe Candia LLC that owns the property. The entity that owns the property needs to remain the same. So I just got a call last week that someone says, oh, I think I'll put it into an LLC. No, you have to put it into the same entity that you had it in. You could transfer again later, but you have to at least keep it throughout the exchange.
Got it. Okay. So don't monkey with it in the middle.
Hey, once again, Dan, I mean, this is something that really no one else should know this information, but more than me. I mean, so I always tell people, don't beat yourself up over the do's and don'ts. Just reach out to me early on. I'm always happy to be, you can always bend my ear for more information. I'm always happy to kind of make sure you don't go through that process and do something wrong. So it's a little daunting in terms of remembering all this, but that's why
we work with professionals.
Yeah.
Right on. So if someone wants to get to this point where they can do these exchanges and they want to be able to, maybe throw $100,000 into this DST or that DST, how do they get started? Like where, you've got some experience in this. What would you say?
Right. So obviously, we all love investment real estate, and so being in the investment real estate world is great for a lot of reasons. It can really bring a lot of wealth into your family's estate, which is fantastic, and that's why we all think about it. And so making sure that you're just getting involved, really. If you're here in San Diego, come join us at San Diego SDCIA, which is one of the RIA groups. There's RIA groups nationwide. It's a great way to learn about how to do deals, how to find deals, how to just a lot of knowledge out there. And most people are really happy to help, and which is it may be surprising to some, but people like to see other people succeed, and I believe that. So it's something that's very important when it comes to going out there and just putting yourself out there and learning about how to buy properties. And then once you get to the fortunate position of having a lot of equity in your property and a lot of gain in your property, also known as profit, then you can start thinking about tax mitigation, and then you start talking to me about 1031 exchanges, and then you're in a good position. You really are. So it's a great place to be.
Right on. So SDCIA is San Diego Creative Investors Association. You can find it at sdcia.com. If you decide to come to a meeting, you'll see me there. You'll see Gabe there.
That's right.
It's really for us about the community, and so the resources that you need are going to be there to help you figure out how to do your first deal or to do your 10th deal, and the professionals you need to work with, like Gabe, are going to be in attendance to help you out. So I hope some folks decide to come check us out. You can also find us online as a member. You can see different recordings and things like that on our website. Gabe, for you, what's the best part about coming to RIAs like SDCIA?
I love the speakers, always great speakers. I love walking around, visiting all the tables with different people from different industries. So like myself, people in the lending business, people in the real estate sales business, and a number of other vendors out there that are really conducive and helpful when it comes to, just being in that world.
Right on. We're going to have to get you up there speaking yourself one of these days.
Can't wait.
Yeah. All right. So then if people want to get a hold of you, where are you going there? How do we get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, you can always call me. So Gabe Candia, I'm with Perch Wealth. My phone number is 858-533-7200. My email is gcandia@perchwealth.com. So I'll spell that out, GCANDEA @perch, PERCH, wealth.com. Or you can always visit our website, perchwealth.com. Or, come friend me on LinkedIn. We're always sharing educational material, educational articles. Most of what I do on a daily basis is education. I'm not selling anybody anything. I'm just telling them what the process is, what is available to them, and how it might benefit them. And they make the decision from there. So always happy to share information. And that's really what it's all about, is making sure that people are educated on all of this.
Mm-hmm. It's all about the education and networking.
That's right.
I love it. Right on. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on today and help people learn about Delaware Statutory Trust. It's a new one to me, really. So
once again, terrible name, but it's a great solution.
It's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, no, I hope I can work up towards that and get something done. So, but with that, everybody, thanks for listening here today on the Real Men of Real Estate on KCAA Radio. My name is Dan Reddig. I've been here with Gabe Candia for the last hour. Thanks again for listening, and come back and see us next Sunday at 1 p.m.
Now you can listen to KCAA